Our last speaker, Amy Richmond, she is a senior member of PricewaterhouseCoopers Human Capital Team. She has over 25 years of HR leadership experience, spanning over 325,000 employees in over 150 countries. I am sure that she has a lot of frequent flyer miles, right, Amy? She currently serves as the People Operations Leader for the advisory practice in the U.S., where her focus is on transforming the way PwC deploys staff through process and technology. Folks, Amy is truly walking the walk every day. She has implemented AI in her daily workflow process. She is incredibly progressive, and we are so honored to have her with us today. So welcome, Amy. Thank you.
All right. Similar to Tim, I am not going to stand behind the podium, partly because you won't see me. I'm not very tall. So, but I am really happy to be here. I recognize I'm also between you and lunch. So I either have to be really good or fast. So we'll try to do a little of both. I also want to just share that, well, let me get to my, here we go. Let me just tell you a little bit about me. I have been with PwC. I am a career lifer there. I've been there, just celebrating my 30th anniversary. That is not normal in this day and age, but I have loved my firm, and I've been able to do a lot of different things in my career. So in addition to pretty much every HR job you can picture that probably many of you have in this room, about 7-8 years ago, I took an opportunity to kind of reinvent my career and move into kind of major transformation projects. So I actually led our global implementation of Workday, and I spent, so I know we had some negativity on Workday, but I led our global implementation of Workday across all of our network, and then now I'm working on another big transformation project. So different than my previous amazing speakers, I am not going to scare you. I'm not going to warn you. I'm going to tell you how it really works. Because we've actually been able to make AI actually work in a practical application. So that's what I want to share with you. So let me tell you a little bit about me. I'm happy to actually be here because I'm not on a plane. I tend to travel a lot. I am from Sagamore Hills, so not too far from here. I don't know, anybody here run the Blue Line last weekend? Anyone else? No? Anybody? Oh, yay. So in case you didn't know what that is, Akron puts on one of the best road races. They put a half marathon, marathon, and a relay race. So if you ever notice, there's a blue line painted through Akron, the race course. So fun, and I'm an avid runner. I'm also an avid golfer. So the reason I bring up the running thing is your journey around AI is partially what Chaz and Tim talked about. You need to put all those protocols into place. My firm is a very large public accounting firm. We do professional services. We've done all that. In fact, my whole presentation had to go through an AI review because I had the word AI in it, and also a risk management review. So we've got all the policies. We consult on this. We've done all the trainings, et cetera. But you need to start taking steps. So just like running a race, you got to take steps to get to the finish. And it's not going to be perfect along the way, and that's okay. So let me tell you a little bit about our journey. So ours was really around how do we start putting things in place that will allow us to get where we want to go, which is actually to become a skills-first organization. We want to stop recruiting people based on just a role and start recruiting people based on the skills they have and the skills that we want them to have. So we started that with our implementation of Workday, trying to put in one human capital management system, actually harmonizing our data model. We've also been focused in on our learning path so that we can think about how do we connect our learning to all of the skills that people are developing, and then also putting in something called SkyHive, which is a skills intelligence system that's built on AI. So I tell you all that because those are not the most sexy things in the world, but you take steps in order to get there. All right, so I didn't want to let my predecessor speakers down. I had to have a statistics slide, of course, too. So here's mine. But as you can see, skills is actually everywhere combined with AI. So much of what's going on in the world today is around how do we embed skills, how do we think about actually putting skills on both the person, right? So what skills do you have? And then also skills on the actual work that we do. And then we can use AI to start to match those things. So as you can see, it's a very complicated problem. A lot of companies are trying to solve it, and very few have actually accomplished that. We haven't figured it all out at PwC, but we've been recognized for one of the 13 lighthouse companies that are actually making progress in this journey. It's interestingly enough that we do lots of consulting for companies, maybe many of your companies as well, but I get to do this for us. So I get to hire our own consultants to come in and to start to actually think about how do we build our own capability internally so that we can leverage this stuff. And then, of course, our practice comes and asks me to go speak to all of our clients and tell them our stories. Okay, so what is a skills-first strategy? So let me just back up. I know this is a little bit different, but I want to just root you in this so then we can talk about how we actually leveraged AI to do that. So our ambition is really to become an organization that is rooted in how we use skills to understand what our people do, how well they do it, and how we can provide that to our clients. At the same time, our people then will offer insights, and our clients will get the best of our people. So it's a really good win-win situation. But think about it this way, right? We're a group of human capital professionals. But I can't say I want to go out and recruit an HR person, right? Do you do payroll? Do you do benefits? Do you do compensation? Right? There's all these other skills within that that make sense that we need to understand as we go. So this is where we'll spend the bulk of our time, is sort of where our future state is as we go through this. So the idea is that you want to connect all of these different systems, right? So it's one thing to put in a human capital management system. It's one thing to put in a compensation system or a skills piece, a learning system. But how do you connect them all so that they actually talk to each other? And that's one of the biggest challenges that people have to solve. So for us, we wanted to make sure that skills were actually aligned to people's jobs, but we also needed to get people to put skills on their own profile. But in order to do that, you need systems and you need practical ways to do that. I don't want to call up people and have them put up, do a survey and have them put skills in a spreadsheet and have to track that manually. You can imagine how much time that takes. That becomes very, very challenging. So our goal is actually that skills, once we've created that taxonomy that sits on people's profile. So for instance, in my profile at PwC, I have 70 skills that are attached to my profile, okay? I can do project management, I can do public speaking, I can lead with empathy. Like, I have skills that all are across human-led and that are also leadership skills. I have digital skills and I have technology skills, right? So you can think about ways that you put all that together. But then once you do that, then what we want to do is weave those skills through our organization and through the life cycle from a human capital perspective so that it's easy then for people to do their work. It's easy for people to progress and grow and develop. And it's easy then for our clients to get the best of our people. So start from the beginning, right? When you hire somebody, I want to go put a job description out, but who reads the job descriptions? Not many people, right? They look at a couple of lines. But now you'll see in job descriptions, everything is skill-based, right? We start to pull out what skills are. We can match that based on people's resumes. Start to bring people in based on what their skills are. We can use AI as part of our interview process, as part of our selection process, with, of course, every bias that Chaz was talking about accounted for to make sure that we're doing the right thing. So we get our people in. Then we want to make sure that they're trained, right? So we got to teach them how to work well in our firm, and we want to make sure that they have the learning. So I know that they have these skills that they come to the table with. Now I need to augment that with other skills so I can put them through training. Then I want to make sure they're actually applying that training on the job. So they take the next step, they're able to actually work through their, on a job and demonstrate those skills or learn new skills as they go. When you're finished with that job, I want to be able to evaluate somebody based on what they did and then determine if I can take those, if I can actually say that that skill has become more proficient, has become deeper, or have you added new skills to your profile? So one of the things that's in our goal is that right now we rely on our people to update their skills profile. How many of you have ever updated your skills on LinkedIn? A lot of people. Try getting them to do that in an internal system, and they're scratching their head going, what are you doing with this? Right? It's not a very easy thing to get people to do. So you have to help people understand like what's in it for them. But what I'd love to do is have actually our AI present skills to people and say, you worked on this job, you took this training, you were evaluated on this, now do you have this skill? It's a lot easier to click yes than it is for me to go back and think, what did I learn on that job? What did I learn from that experience? So we're trying to embed that in that way. There's other ways that we also think about that is around strategic workforce planning. So I'm going to think about what do I want my workforce to look like in about 3 to 5 years, not just in the next couple of months. I can do that in terms of headcount planning, but I want to know what do I want my workforce to look like? What skills are hot skills in the market? What are the emerging skills? Do I need people who have an AI degree or have data analytics and information systems? We need to talk later. We want those types of skills in our workforce. So I need to start thinking about how do I either upskill, bring on new people, or translate skills from other parts of the organization so that I am ready for the next big thing. We did this from an AI perspective. We saw this coming. We have an entire practice that is dedicated toward consulting for companies that are trying to actually put AI in, but also guardrail against a lot of the things that Tim was talking about. So we have a cyber risk and regulatory practice that actually helps companies put in all the guardrails, the controls in place to help them through that. And then we want to think about how we staff and deploy people. So how do we match people to the work that they're working on? So this is the project I'm working on right now, where we've done we have our human capital management system. Actually, I'm going to give you this one. So these were sort of the steps that we took in order to actually get to the point where we could build a talent marketplace and allow our people to have more choice or more personalization in the way that they actually work on clients. So we had to start with something that is not the most exciting thing, but it was really critical, which is a job architecture. Does anybody know what job architecture is or talent architecture? This is how you classify all of your roles into either job families or job family groups. It is not the most sexy HR thing on the planet, but it is something that is incredibly important because I need to understand what people do and then how they do it. So not where they sit in the organization, but what they do and how they do it. And in order to do that, we've got to actually understand all of our people, the skills that we expect from them, and then actually put that into practice. We have a whole consulting practice that does this. I hired them when we were doing our Workday implementation back in 2016. My own consultants said to me, we need your job catalog. We need your job architecture. And I said, we're doing this implementation across our network of firms. We have 152 firms. Which one do you want? Because I got 150 of them. Like, we were all doing things in different systems at the time. And they're like, well, we just need one. So I called our consultants up and said, okay, help me. Like, how do you do this? Like, oh, this typically takes like about a year of work. It's really complicated for an organization, 300,000 people. I'm like, that's great. You have 4 months. Build me a job architecture. So they did. We worked on it. We took the US. It was our largest territory. We figured it was going to be close enough. So we've had that in place for about 7 or 8 years now. And we realized we needed to modernize that. But do I want to go back and spend another year and lots of money? We brought in a skills intelligence tool, a partner, a vendor, that has AI driven. They built our job architecture in about 4 weeks. It was pretty amazing to take, and we did a proof of concept with them. So we had our consultants, this is really not very good for my own firm, but don't repeat me this. But we had our consultants and the AI engine work next to each other to see how accurate the information would come out. So after this, we did this little proof of concept with a couple of businesses. So after 4 weeks, we said, okay, let's compare that. 80% same. Close enough, right? Gave us at least enough to give us a starting point, and we heard that a lot about AI is great for giving you your starting point. Saved us hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars by being able to build a job architecture. Again, not the sexiest thing in the world, but really critical to have as your baseline foundation for if you're going to try to build skills. The second thing was we needed to start to map people to the skills, or map skills to the people. And again, there's a couple of ways you can do that. I could have everybody fill out a form and tell me what skills you have, and you're going to sit there and think, and you'll be like, I don't know, I can do comp, I can do payroll, and you'll start, and then you'll be like, okay, I'm out of things. Like, that's good. What else do you want me to tell you? Instead, what we did was we brought in this skills engine to actually serve up, and we actually used the Workday Skills Cloud to do this, but it would serve up ideas to people. So if you have project management, do you also do program delivery? If you know how to do compensation, have you ever done recruiting? Right? And so all of a sudden, you could start to see adjacent skills and use that to help people populate. Now what we're doing is trying to take it a step further and use the AI to help us start to say, okay, not just do I suggest this, but here's all the evidence of why I suggest these things to you. Let's get this on your profile. So the important part about getting skills on someone's profile is now I know when I have to go and staff and deploy people, I want to match those to what my clients need. So we have clients that come and say, I need a cyber risk and reg person. I need somebody who can do audit and accounting. Well, I need to be able to have those two sides of the equation. It's just supply and demand, right? Easy enough. So we spent some time doing personalized learning, which I'll talk about in a second, but then we also built what we call My Marketplace. And My Marketplace is one of the first real talent marketplaces that has existed in the market. What we've done is we've pulled all of our requisitions from Workday, right? So we have all of our full-time roles, full transparency to all of our people. They can see any role that they wanted to apply to. But we also pulled in all of our jobs. So when we're a consulting firm, so we need to assign people to work on what tax return you're going to do, what audit you're going to do, what consulting project. But people were saying, it's a black box. I don't know how I get assigned to that. So we wanted to give them choice and transparency. So we built this marketplace so that we could take in all of our intake and actually surface that up to people. And we do that in a way that now gives them, it's like Netflix. There's like little carousels, and it'll say, based on your skills, these things might apply to you, and you can express interest in those. It'll say, so we have one for skills, one for, they've told us what interests they want to do, like if they want to work on a certain client. And then we take that information and we feed it into our deployment system, and we pop those people to the top of the list. So now when we match people based on, I know the skills that I need for the job, I know the skills that are on the person, right? Pretty easy to do for the machines to do the matching, but they can create a list that we can then shortlist off of. Let me just give you an example of why that is actually like transformative. In the past, we have resource managers. They used to spend about 3 hours compiling what we call the shortlist. They would take somebody's profile from Workday, they would take all their statistics around how available they are or utilized they are, what other clients they've worked on, what their experiences have been, and they would put that all into a very pretty spreadsheet, and then they would email that spreadsheet to an engagement manager. Say, you said you needed a senior associate, here's 4 people to pick from. That took about 3 hours worth of work. Our new system allows us to do that in seconds. We can just shortlist. That shortlist immediately goes to the engagement manager. They can say, yep, these 3 people look great, pick one of them for me, and let's get on the way. Let's go serve our clients. And we've been able to use that marketplace to take the interest of our people into account. We've never done that before. So I know this may not sound very exciting, but it's really exciting to me because it's very transformative in the way that we actually do this. And when you think about how hard it is to hire in this market, how hard it is to retain people, how to focus in on now the other pieces, of course, right? How do we provide personalized learning? We're using the similar AI engine to be able to do that, so that, again, this stuff all feeds in together. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot different for our people. We've gotten very good feedback. Is it perfect? Not yet. We still have a little ways to go. People, express interest in things and then don't get picked for that job, and they're trying to understand why. So we're working on that. But so far, it has made a huge, huge difference in our journey to become a skills-first organization. And again, AI has been at the root of all of that. So last thing, and then I'm going to open up for questions, is just the exponential impact of AI is things like, what skills are we missing, right? How do I find different people who can do these things? What do our clients need? How can I just create faster information for our people to match them to our clients? Oftentimes we have clients in our practice, as an example, clients come to us on a Friday, we need to have somebody on the ground on Monday. That's not the easiest thing to do. I need to know who's already in that city, who can get there so I don't have to stick them on a plane. How do we find the right people with the right skills to do that work fastest and to serve our clients the best way? So those are the types of things that we have focused on, and AI has helped us to do that much quicker. So let me pause there and see if, I think that was the last slide I had, yes. See if there's any questions that have come through, Amanda. And if not, I can, we'll see how it goes.
Yes, we have quite a few questions,
okay,
Amy.
great.
Okay, so we have a user of Marketplace here. And it says, you can match existing skills to available jobs in Marketplace. How do you use Marketplace to work in projects that are aspirational, but maybe the individual doesn't necessarily have the skill set?
Yeah, it's a great question, right? So the way that our AI, we have people actually not only put in, we have all the skills that they already have, but they also are able to put in their skills interests. So things that they want to grow and learn. And so the way that it works is it will also curate to them to say, you know what, you may have this project, as an example, requires 5 skills. You have 3 of them. Raise your hand, right? See, because you can go learn them. And by the way, when we assign you to that, we're going to immediately get you some learning so that you can go and take the learning that you need to be prepared to go and then demonstrate those skills. We're constantly growing people. So that's part of our ambition, is it's not just now picking people to go work on jobs that you already know or the same 4 people that you always work with. We're actually able to really maximize our workforce.
Great, thank you. So Amy, how long did it take you to get from concept to actual implementation of this Marketplace system model?
All right, so I didn't see that many runners in the room, but anybody who's ever run a long race knows it takes a while, right? You put one foot in front of the other. So we started on this journey actually a long, long time ago. We started in 2015. We had a maintained skills list, and it had about 6,000 skills. It took us about 500 hours a year to govern that list. It was a real pain in the neck. And then we went and made our first big move into the Workday Skills Cloud in 2019. We moved from having 6,000 skills that we had to maintain to 50,000 skills that were immediately available to us. That was actually quite overwhelming. So our new one has about 20,000 skills. So we've narrowed that down because you could, in the old system, we had some challenges with project management or PM or PMP, right? So you'd have all these things that meant the same thing. But again, all these companies are cleaning that up. So the reason I say all that is have to treat some of this stuff like it's a marathon. You just take it a mile at a time. And if you can make a little bit of progress, eventually it all comes together. So our journey has been a little bit long, but it's also been intentional, it's been purposeful, and we've had a goal in mind. As I said, we're not there yet, and by the time we start to get there will change. So we will have a different way of being able to get through all that.
Oh, that's such a true statement. All right, tell us about employee engagement. How did the employees embrace or accept the marketplace?
Yeah, great question. So we measured employee engagement in a couple of different ways. One was by, of course, adoption, right? How many people are actually going in there? To date, we've had 70% of our US population has actually gone in and looked in our marketplace. It's pretty good. We've only had this launch less than a year, so we launched it last December. The other way that we've done it is through sentiment, right? So through our employee surveys, we do those. We do rely on them, and we really care about what our people think. So we've been able to ask specific questions that allow us to measure sentiment and how well this stuff is received. And then we have a third way, which is what we call listening. So I don't know how many of you deal with Fishbowl or Glassdoor or any of the other crazy social media things that are out there anonymously, but we go and we monitor for what they say about us. And it's really interesting because a lot of times those things are negative, but in this case with our marketplace, for the most part, it's been really positive feedback, which we've been, like, I keep waiting for the shoe to fall, the other shoe to fall, but it's been really positive.
That's great. All right, so this is from someone that's talking about maybe the bad side of things that you've experienced with launching Marketplace. What do you do, or what have you learned about employees trying to game the system for their own benefit?
Great question. Well, the first thing we did was we actually limited how many things that somebody could express interest for at one time. So we said, you know what? In any given time, you can express interest for up to 5 things. Then we realized we didn't need to actually lock that down so much. So we extended it to 10. Now we have actually open unlimited. I think one of our biggest challenges has actually been what we've been calling Heartbreak Hotel, which is people express interest for things and then they don't get assigned to those. And they're going, why? Why didn't I get assigned? So that's one of the big pieces that we're working on as we go forward and as we enhance some of the technology behind all of this, is trying to work through making sure every person gets a personal touch. Again, one of our mantras in our firm is that everything is human-led and tech-powered, right? So we keep the human element, and I think our friends that spoke before me have sufficiently scared you enough to know that the machines can't do it all. You still need the people there.
That's a great mantra. So here is a good follow-up question. How do you as a company assess, analyze, or measure all of the soft skills, such as leadership, empathy, things like that?
Yeah, spend a lot of time on the soft skills because when push comes to shove, our clients hire us for our technical skills, for sure. But it's the relationships with those clients that make the difference and have us coming back. It's the way that we serve them, and it's also the way we interact with each other that makes a real difference in our firm and our culture. So we spend a lot of time really focused in on developing, honing in, and doing training around all of those soft skills. But we also ask our people to live those as part of our values. So our values, none of them have to do with technical skills. They're care, make a difference, teamwork. So those types of things are critical to the way that we run our firm. And we evaluate people on them, which is good. Oh, you're gonna have to.
I am guilty of this. I do not update my LinkedIn like I should, so I will admit it. What do you do about employees who are not updating their skills or their profile? Are they missing out on important jobs or roles that they would be best suited for?
Absolutely. They are missing out. But we have to continue to, and we have a lot of people, by the way, who are in that boat. Most of our people don't update their profile more than once a year. And we can't scrape LinkedIn like we tried at one point, but that doesn't work, so don't try that. But you have to have a good what's in it for them. So they have to see that you're actually using those skills in the way that they get staffed to things, in the way they're compensated, in the way they're evaluated, how their learning paths are curated to them, so that we can start to get people more motivated. But then on the flip side, again, our ambition, we're not there yet, is so that we can start serving more skills up to people versus them having to sit there and think about what they all are. So it's a journey. And I do think people do miss out. One of the things that we're trying to do is embed it into actually our client engagement cycle versus our year-end evaluations. We have it in there, but that happens once a year or twice a year. So where our focus is at the end of every engagement, just somebody talking to them about, have you updated your skills? I think you should add this to your profile. You've learned this, right? Having that real conversation at the end of every work, every job.
Great, thank you, Amy. Can you talk to us a little bit about governance? So does PwC incorporate AI into its governance structure? What executives are responsible for certain AI functions within the company? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So we have an entire AI team for internally to govern ourselves, and then we also have an externally facing consulting team from an AI perspective. It is an offering that is really critically important to the market and is something that we consult on pretty regularly. From an internal perspective, we did exactly the things that Chaz and Tim were talking about doing. So we set up an AI governance model. We set up a policy. We made every person go through training. We have prompting parties to learn how to actually do prompting we have Chat PwC, not Chat GPT, but we have an internal chat protected area that we can use. So we've embraced it in terms of let's use it in our client work, but let's put that guardrail around it. We use Copilot, so it helps us take notes in meetings. But if I go into a meeting with my employment lawyer, I can't use Copilot because it's a privileged conversation, right? So we have lots of different rules that we've set up. We've set the policies. I don't think there's a single conversation in my firm that goes by right now that doesn't have an AI discussion about it. But it is really hugely important. But we've been very much about embracing it and helping people learn how to use it properly because we know it's here to stay. And we know it's the wave of the future. And I can tell you, it has made, I did not write this presentation using Chat PwC, but it has made my life a lot easier in terms of notes and meetings and action items and work it we use Copilot and then it just immediately assigns things to Microsoft Planner, and it really, there's some cool stuff out there that we should be leveraging.
Wow, very impressive. So tell us about your audit process. How do you audit your AI for bias?
Yeah, so this we've spent a lot of time on, particularly in the recruiting space, so I think that was mentioned before. Anytime that you want to embed AI in looking at resume screening candidates, you've got to go through a real AI audit. We hired ourselves to go and do that work so that we could make sure that there's no implicit bias or limiting as much implicit bias. You can't say none because that's probably impossible, but working through that. And then we also have put in human checks around some of this. So again, human-led, tech-powered, but we also make sure that humans are the ones making decisions. So in the hiring space, as an example, a person makes the decision around the hiring. We look at the slate of candidates to look for diversity and inclusion, to think about if we have got the right slate of candidates, and then we actually make those decisions. But it's important that we use it. So as an example, we had 45,000 applicants last year for just our advisory practice in the US, but we only hired about 3,000 people off college campuses. So you can imagine with an acceptance rate of less than, we only bring in about less than 10% of the people that apply, it becomes very challenging. So we need to be able to leverage that process really well.
Great. So I'm going to tell you about another one of my vices.
Okay.
So I don't update LinkedIn, and I don't like it when people move my cheese.
Right.
Has anyone read that book,
Yes.
Who Moved My Cheese? I don't like it. So tell us about your experience with moving other people's cheese, particularly the senior executives. What were some of the obstacles to implementing your marketplace?
Yeah. So stakeholder management is probably the key thing that I have spent time on over the last 7 or 8 years with every piece of technology that I've helped put in. When we went to Workday, when we went to our marketplace, in the process that I'm going through now around our staffing and deployment tool, our new learning system, all of that requires us to do that. So what we've done is a very methodical stakeholder map and trying to figure out who are all the people that we need to get to. So in the project I'm working on right now, we have 80 stakeholder groups. That's not people, that's groups of people that we have thought that are going to be important for us to connect with and make sure they understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're doing it. And so in that process, we've had to make sure that we've sat down and understood, like, how do we prioritize those stakeholders? Because we knew, for instance, for this example around skills, matching people to jobs, I needed the people who lead our resource management function. I used to joke around and I call them stakeholder number one, right? If they were on board, then I could easily get others, because they would immediately ask me, we actually gave them a nickname because their names are Michelle, Aaron, and Kelly, so I call them Mac. So we're like, if Mac is on board, then everybody else will start to buy in. And then what we did was we started going out to some of the different practice groups, the ones that we knew were going to be most challenging and not want to accept things. So we're a deals practice. We move really fast. I need to be able to move quicker than that. I don't have time to do all those steps in the process. I'm an audit practice. We're really risk adverse, and we have recurring work. I already know all the people I want to put on my engagement. So we started to look at all the naysayers, and all the people who would have the challenging things. We went to them first. So again, have we gotten everyone there? Probably not. But we've made a huge amount of progress in working through that in a methodical way. And sometimes it takes writing it all down and thinking it through in a map and figuring out who's supposed to talk to this person, how are we getting to these people, how do we create some consistent information to go back and be able to articulate that to people in a way that's going to inspire them to be like, okay, actually, I do want to move my cheese. It's going to be okay.
Great. So talk to us a little bit about the new associate. How do you incorporate this into onboarding, especially when they may not have skills or their skills are still developing? How do you encourage them to use the marketplace?
Yeah, great. Actually, they're probably our biggest user because they're also looking to make sure they get client opportunities as fast as possible when they get hired. But we need to educate people early on. You'd be surprised, though. Tell me one college student that you know doesn't have skills. They all have skills. People have learned skills all the way up through. Riley, I was super impressed with the way that you spoke. And I watch this with a lot of, we hire, again, thousands of college grads every year. These people are amazing, and they blow many of us who've been around the workforce for a long time out of the water. They have skills. Now the question is, how do we help hone those skills and develop them, deepen them, help broaden them, or give them other skills in different areas? So a lot of that is during our onboarding process. We put people through training, and we actually spend a lot of time talking about this. We also talk about some of the very basic skills that are really important in our firm that people sometimes overlook. Time management, using Excel, using PowerPoint, how to respond to emails, timeliness around when do you use Teams chat or Slack or whatever you want to call it, and when do you use an email, and when do you pick up the phone, right? So those are all skills. Somebody had asked the question around some of those soft skills. That's some of the stuff that we actually have embedded now into our training for our new hires to help acclimate them into the business world. And that's been really, really effective for us.
Great. And so on the flip side, so you just talked about people finding their skills or realizing the skill set that they have. What do you do when you have an individual who doesn't realize that maybe they think they have that skill set, but they really don't? How does that coaching conversation go?
It happens all the time. So we're an environment of real-time feedback or real-time coaching. So we spend a lot of time working in smaller groups. Even on clients where we have lots and lots of people deployed to them, we still work in small groups. So we really depend on, we've set up, every person has a development leader. So it's a more senior person who's responsible for their career, their progression, their development, how they grow. And so a lot of that is to sit down early and help somebody work through self-awareness, understanding what their skills really are or are not. That's one of the challenges with self-reporting skills, by the way. And then also working through how to actually give them feedback and coach them through what learning they should be taking, how do they get paired up on the right engagement so that they can learn that skill better. So we spend a lot of time doing that. It's probably why our human capital team is so big. This has not replaced any of our jobs. So that's been one amazing thing. It's actually made a lot of the jobs more fun because our human capital team has become much more strategic advisors to our partners and our directors in our business to be able to go and help them develop their people.
That's great feedback. So hopefully your policy has Chaz's tagline of, if you violate this policy, you may be subject to discipline, up to including termination. Did I get that right, Chaz?
I was reciting it along with him.
Perfect. So what do you do when someone purposely inflates their skills or puts skills down that they know that they're not qualified for?
Yeah, so this is a challenge, and honestly, this is one that gets really complicated because there's also research out there around the way that men report their skills and the way women report their skills, the way that people of color report their skills, the way that Caucasian people report their skills, and that is a really big challenge. So we do, again, try to work through conversations. At some point, our goal is to put skills verification into our systems so that we can actually have number of jobs that you did this on, how many hours did you work, what training did you take that would validate that you've actually developed the skill, and then do you have a human say, yes, I've seen evidence of this, I've watched this take place. We're not there yet. That's part of the future, is around skills verification and skills proficiency. We do, those are two things that we're striving for, and again, part of that roadmap to get to that end of that race.
Is there anything else that you use in evaluating skills other than the marketplace? Are individuals free to choose whoever they want to work on their team or on a particular project?
No.
Thank you for being honest.
So yeah, we have some engagements that are viewed as really cool and really fun and interesting, and then we have some things that people are like, I don't want to work on that. And most of the time, the I don't want to work on that is because of who they're working for, not what the client does. But we do have a lot of protocols in place. So we have an entire resource management team that helps us do that. But what we've done is, again, by opening up this transparency with this marketplace, so we've started the conversation. That's really a big piece of this, is so that I could say to somebody, I'd like to get a chance to go and work on Meta. I want to work on Citibank. I want to work on Goldman Sachs. And then it may not be the thing that I get to work on today, but now I can start to think about, all right, what skills do I need to develop so that I can go work on that? What kind of relationships do I need to build? How do I position myself for when that next opportunity comes, that I'm the one who gets that chance to work on that engagement? So it's a lot of it is conversation. It's thinking about somebody's career path, helping them think about their development, where their progression is going. All of those things together is really what starts to build that notion. But does somebody raise their hand, they immediately get it? No. That's one of the big frustrations.
Great, thank you for being honest there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a question unrelated to marketplace.
Okay.
Let's go back to workplace. So when you are looking at resumes and potential candidates, is there anything else that you look at other than just the resume? Do you use non-AI methodologies to review candidates?
Sure.
How do you research them?
Well, first of all, we use one of the very old tried and true things, referrals. People who know other people make a big difference for us. We have lots of people who come in as experienced hires and they've worked with other people. That is a great ability for us to do that. And then we put them through a rigorous interview process. We want them to meet actual people and actually talk to people and understand if their experience really ties to what they say that they can do and what the needs are that we have. So when we go out in the experience market, it's very more focused on that. When we go to college campuses, we use our intern program very much as a feeder from a recruitment standpoint. It is a great opportunity to get to know people, to actually have them work in our environment. But while it is a feeder, we only give offers to about 85% of our interns, so not everyone gets an offer. So it is a competitive environment that way.
Awesome. So it's good to hear that you use some of the old-fashioned methods.
The old-fashioned methods seem to work sometimes.
Tried and true. There you
Yes.
go. If you have a question for Amy, we have a couple more minutes. You can go ahead and type them into the questions box. Oh, here's a good question.
Okay.
Do clients have a say as to who gets assigned to their project?
Some of them do. Some of our clients require very rigorous background checks. You can imagine banks as an example, and some of them actually want to do interviews with our people before they're assigned to that engagement. So we've got a process to go through for that. It's not the most fun or interesting thing, but we do that at times, and it does become challenging because sometimes, even though there's lots of projects on those clients, somebody might tend to get stuck, right? Because the client knows them and the client likes them, and so then they're like, I would like to go do something else. But that's where, again, we want to have them have that conversation with us so that we understand what their interests are, so that we can help navigate that. We're not going to destroy a client relationship, but we can help navigate so that over time we can get that person peeled away and be able to do something else.
Awesome.
So
All right.
I hope that helps.
We have one more question.
Okay.
This comes from an HR professional who uses AI regularly. How can organizations help remove the negative stigma of AI? For example, being called lazy.
Oh gosh, I haven't heard that one
I'm
actually.
sorry that's happening to you.
Efficient. So.
Oh yeah, change the narrative. That's right, efficient.
I would say, we are cutting edge, right? Human capital is oftentimes viewed as lagging. This is how we lead in the industry. And so I would say, focus it in on, we are out there in front. We're using these tools to basically leverage the most capability that's available to us to make the best decisions to help us grow our talent. And that's to me is one of the most critical things. It's why I love being an HR professional. I like to help people, and I like to help them grow their careers. So to me, leveraging AI is only a smart choice in doing that.
Okay, we have another question. You guys are really bringing it with the questions.
I love it.
We're
I'd
off
rather
the
do
marketplace
this than-
now.
yeah,
We're off the marketplace. Now we're going to really dig deep.
Okay.
How do you manage when someone gives you a referral for a candidate and says, this candidate is like me or like this person? How do you manage that, and how do you ensure a diverse workforce? Yeah,
so diversity, inclusion, and belonging are core to our values, to our processes. We actually have, shocking, a process set up around referrals. So they do go through a formal process, but they do get a little extra look. Again, we have huge amount of applicants every year on both the experience side and the campus side. So we do look at that. But we're also, we're an incredibly diverse organization. So a lot of times when somebody is like them, that might be good. It might be a person of color. It might be somebody who's neurodiverse. It might be something that is actually helping us. So I would say I don't view that as necessarily a negative thing because we already have a very diverse workforce.
Awesome. All right. Any other questions for Amy? Someone's got to have a real controversial one.
Oh, come on.
All right, everybody give Amy a real big round of applause.